If you do that, we'll have a problem.
It's incredible that people mispronounce your name. It's not like you don't encounter Cedrics in your day-to-day life.
You know, I think that every time someone does it incorrectly.
My good friend John Fiorello, his last name is butchered, and it's spelled phonetically. It's exactly how you would imagine. There's no weird vowels or reorganization of consonants. It is exactly what you would think, and it's still John Fiorello gets brought out all the time.
Let me tell you this. See, you have a very simple name in Patrick Sullivan, so you don't have to go through the perils of having to say your first name and then spell it immediately so that no one starts it with an S or ends it with a K.
That's just unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
And I was mistaken looking over Bobby's list here. There is 16 one-drops. He also has 4 copies of Boros Elite alongside Soldier of the Pantheon, Judge's Familiar, and Dryad Militant. So a very aggressive list. Some of these lists only play, 8 one-drops. They're playing a lot more 3s, especially the list that splash. They're going up to things like Zaffler Necromancer. But Bobby, very aggressive in this tournament.
We'll watch the match here between Birmingham and Kincey in just a moment. Mono Red Aggro versus Boss Sly. We felt that Mono White Aggro might be a pretty good place to be if you want to be Boss Sly. And I'm actually a little bit surprised to see Boss Sly sitting at 5-1 right now, just because the format here and the metagame in this room is not great for this deck.
Well, there's a lot of people who just assume that people will do the hating for them. You know what I mean? How many tournaments have you played in with a deck where you were worried about particular sideboard cards and you didn't play against them over the course of the day because your opponents were saying, well, I thought that other people would do the work for me?
Quite a few. Nothing stands out in particular, but quite a few. I definitely agree with you on that one. And it looks like so far, if Lauphiette is able to just continue dodging all the hate cards, he might be in a good spot for the top 8, but we'll see, because from what we've seen analyzing sideboards and deck lists this weekend, people are not messing around trying to beat Boss Sly. And still, to me, even though I think the deck is quite good, it's a deck that I don't think can really overcome substantial hate.
Yeah, it's an issue with all red lists to some degree or another. Tom's is so extreme that it's just not that robust against these kind of sideboard cards.
Cynic Rowan Crusader going to start things right away here for Kincey, so unveiling exactly what he's up to on turn 1.
There are no mysteries.
A Soldier of the Pantheon here for Birmingham. We'll see if he has interest in trading right away or if Kincey will even give him the opportunity. See, there is a Madcap skills over there after all.
This is a great Madcap skills turn. It's 5 damage, or 4 rather, plus 1 more, unless Bobby wants to trade, which is not that exciting of a trade here.
Yeah, and there is your trigger for Heroic. And as you mentioned, it's a trade if you like it to be. Now, blocking there, of course, will not happen, but would the Soldier like to block the other Soldier? Of course, Pantheon in front of the Akron Crusader Soldier, and it looks like the answer may be a resounding no.
Yep, this is what Tom's deck does. It shakes out the bottom of the trash can looking for its cards.
It certainly found some last weekend. 8 planes here for Birmingham. See what he's got on the second turn of the game. Looks like someone may be under arrest here in just a moment.
Now, Azorius Arrestor is a little bit on the mopey side, but Ben Lundquist has been a pretty loud advocate for this card. I especially like it in the 1-drop dense list because Imposing Sovereign requires you to play it and then your other stuff. So if you're playing 3 drops, that makes a lot more sense. If you're flooding the board with 1 drops, you'd rather play all those first and then Arrestor or whatever your opponent plays to block after the fact.
Yeah, the big creature, the Pulacranos, for example, and push through some damage.
And this is a spot where Azorius Arrestor is significantly better than Imposing Sovereign would have been.
The big question is, how aggressive do you get here if you're Birmingham, or are you just trying to trade early and often? We saw the Arrestor target and detain the Akron Crusader and then attack there with the Soldier. So what that means to me is that there's no interest in trading with that Soldier token.
I think that's one of those matchups where Bobby should be looking to trade unless the gulf in card quality is just too high. Trading a Crusader token for your Soldier to Pantheon just can't happen unless you're about to die or whatever the case. But I think he's going to want to be erring on the side of trading, but not quite at that stage or against a card of that low of a quality.
Another copy of the Akron Crusader going to hit the battlefield here. Birmingham going to play a 3rd land. Looks like we're going to have a Judge's Familiar hit the battlefield, and now a Soldier of the Pantheon as well. And I think there's a Brave the Elements here in Birmingham's hand as well to be able to make sure that nothing goes wrong on this turn.
If Kincey gets too aggressive here, the game may just end from Brave the Elements.
Absolutely.
And Alpha Strike here means he loses everything.
And this is a Legion Loyalist. And this makes you want an Alpha Strike.
Oh, yeah. He's playing it before combat, I'm assuming, with the intent of attacking with everything. Brave doesn't quite get everything, and maybe some points of damage are taken, but this is still an excellent spot for Bobby.
Oh, it's time to do some blocking. See, Madcap skills will require a double block. So as you mentioned, you won't get everything. And there are 2 blockers there. Soldier going to go here, and Arrestor going to go there. Of course, all those creatures are going to get first strike, trample, and can't, of course, be blocked by token creatures. None of them out there right now here for Birmingham. But this Brave the Elements does make things really ugly, and protection from red is quite good in this situation. Kincey will have some mana, a little Rubble Belt Maka action, but that's just to keep his creature alive. And
he gets to deal a fair amount of trample damage in this spot too, which is nice for him. But this is still a great block for Bobby.
So 2 blood rushing in this situation, and we'll push through some damage.
Yeah,
it's not so bad.
Given that Bobby had Brave in a board that was this gummed down, it's surprising that Kincey didn't just lose the game outright. You know, the 2 Makas are saving him here.
So you see both players going to figure out the trample damage, what's going to be dealt, what's not, all that good stuff here. And after the dust settles, we will have updated life totals and, more importantly, an updated board state, because some things are going to leave here in just a moment.
Well, it looks like only a Crone Crusader is dying. The second copy.
Yeah, it's not a bad exchange.
Everything else is still around. Now, Kincey is still going to have his work cut out for him here to deal the last points of damage, but he didn't lose everything, which is what's important here.
And the dust does settle. Birmingham's going to go down to 5. But Kincey, I believe only 1 card, maybe 2 left in hand. You can see in Birmingham's hand, he does have another copy of Brave the Elements, so pretty good draw here for Bobby. I think there's also a Path of Bravery over there, which could gain a bunch of life, but may not have the time to actually do that. As here's a Boros Elite.
We've seen a lot of Path of Braveries in this tournament so far, too.
More than your average Open Series tournament, that's for sure. Didn't expect to see this many. Kincey draws a card, 2 cards in the hand right now. Of course, this slide deck puts most of its cards on the table by turn 3.
And having a 3rd land in game 1 means he's, in fact, flooding out. He has drawn too many lands.
Yeah, for this deck.
Yeah.
Hoping to draw more than 2 or 3 lands, not likely to happen. And there's another copy of Crone Crusader, and simply passing the turn back will Birmingham.
I think that Kincey may have sniffed out a 2nd copy of Brave the Elements there. If he's not, that's a really attractive board to attack into with your Legion Loyalist. If he's not attacking, it means he knows that something's up.
Kincey takes a draw right now. He's at 18. Birmingham sitting at 5. 2 copies of Brave the Elements and a Path of Bravery. So right now he's just looking for a land, I think, so he can cast the Path of Bravery and start attacking a little bit.
Yeah.
Not a ton, but a little bit.
I think last turn maybe it would have been possibly correct for Bobby to send in, say, just the Judge's Familiar.
I see 2 triggers there from the Soldier Pantheons. Those are tough to remember. I'm guilty.
Yep.
But Rakdos Cackler is a multicolored spell, so Birmingham going to go up to 7. And that actually matters quite a bit.
I would not have cast that Rakdos Cackler if I was Kincey, because the odds that it deals more than 2 points of damage with the Soldier Pantheons into play, in my mind, is close to 0.
Yeah, it seems relatively low.
The way this board is set up. Now, if you can navigate the game in such a way that Bobby trades some of his soldiers, then we can talk about casting it. But right now, I would not have deployed it.
Boros Elite, the draw from Birmingham, and it's going to come directly into play. Kincey takes a draw.
And I wonder if Bobby's trying to set up just a Alpha Strike in 1 turn. He's not even trying to attack right now, even though he's at 7, which is a relatively healthy life total. He has Brave the Elements as a defense here. He could have, at minimum, sent in just the Judge's Familiar, for example.
Could have been chipping away a little bit.
I feel like he has it in his head that how he wants to win this game is by just using Brave the Elements and attacking in 1 shot.
Well, you wanted an Alpha Strike. I think you wanted it maybe on the other side of the table, but Kincey's going to send in with everybody. And we've got a Legion Loyalist Battalion trigger now. So again, every creature's going to have first strike trample and cannot be blocked by creature tokens, but that 3rd part won't matter.
And the problem here, if you're Bobby, is that these Brave the Elements don't give you defense from trample. I mean, it makes sure that his board's intact, but if Kincey has the requisite pump spells to just trample over the top, these Braves that Bobby has been sitting on for the whole game won't be worth very much.
All these blocks can certainly happen, but as you mentioned, these Brave the Elements, they're good, but they're not great. So there is a Brave, protection from red.
Well, right now, there's 2 points of trample coming across from that, and 1 point of top trample coming through. So that's 3 damage on the board that Kincey's dealing for sure in this sequence.
However, you see him going and reaching. Those 3 points of trample damage will come across, but The bigger problem right now is that everything is leaving the table for Kincey, and now it might have to just be running burn spells. And we know that Ross does not play a lot of those.
Yeah, some shocks, some lightning strikes. And if it's Searing Blood, then the Brave the Elements that Bobby has in his hand also protects him.
Here's a great situation for Path of Bravery. Will it pump those creatures right now? No. Will it gain a bunch of life? Absolutely.
This is good enough. I mean, the door is now shut. Kincey's going to die in 2 strikes, and there's no way he's dealing 9 on the way back.
+6 is going to put Birmingham up to 10 from Path of Bravery. And Kincey knows that the writing is on the wall, and he will concede the game. So Bobby Birmingham, with mono-white aggro, deck that we have not seen a lot of, going to win game number 1 here over Boss Sly.
Building up the board, Brave the Elements is a really powerful tool. Allows Bobby to kill Kincey potentially out of nowhere, or blows up Kincey if he makes an alpha strike. And we saw, you know, certainly the second thing on display in that game.
It's time to take a look at the sideboards here. We will start with Kincey in the Boss Sly deck. You've got 3 copies of Eidolon the Great Revel, a Mutavault, 2 copies of Magma Spray, a Harness by Force, Mizium Mortars, a Searing Blood, a Seismic Stomp, 4 copies of Skullcrack, and a Lightning Strike, very close to what the boss won his Invitational with.
I think that the additional removal spells that are cheap, those are coming in. I think the Seismic Stomp as well should come in this matchup. You see Bobby was very effective at gumming down the ground, so I think Kincey's going to be in the market for that kind of effect as well.
What do we see on the other side?
2 copies of Reprisal, 3 Glare of Heresy, 3 Rootborn Defenses, a Deicide, 2 Banjo Priest, a Celestial Flare, and 3 copies of Gift of Orzhova. Surprisingly light on action in this matchup. I would have anticipated at least a couple copies of Fiendslayer Paladin being in Bobby's sideboard here. As it stands, I think he's going to bring in the 3 copies of Gift of Orzhova. That could be powerful enough to win the game, but it's much more risky post-board when theoretically Kincey has access to more copies of Searing Blood and Shock, and Bobby doesn't have creatures big enough to target. It would be one thing if he had, you know, Bramaz or Fiendslayer Paladin or a pretty safe and stable source of targeting, but Gift is always going to be some amount of risk.
It seems like a difficult matchup here for the Boss Sly deck.
Well, he can get underneath, and Legion Loyalist is a great tool that Kincey has, but Brave the Elements, if the board gets congested, is just a huge, huge problem for Boss Sly.
Well, both players are going to go to the drawing board here and take a look at their sideboards. They'll shuffle up and deal in just a moment, but we do have a moment. We will talk about one of our newest promotions, SCG Game Night, coming in September.
Yeah, again, you can see on the screen here, happening every Wednesday night. We're sending out prize kits with 2 pins and 8 foils. We're going to be switching that up every month. This is supposed to be a more casual-focused event every Wednesday night. Stores have full discretion to run whatever format they want. If you want to run more drafts, standard tournaments, legacy tournaments, that's fine. Even if you want to run formats like Commander or Two-Headed Giant, that's fine as well. You can manage ordering these kits the same way that you manage requesting IQs and everything else through Star City Games' organized play department. So stores get on board with this, and players, make sure to ask your store owner or tournament organizer to bring this to your area.
We try to make it easy. StarCityGames.com/game night or game night at StarCityGames.com for your emails. It should be fun coming every Wednesday starting in September.
Yeah, great. More local play support. You know, Star City is great at providing these regional events, opens. You know, IQs kind of count because they draw in a larger crowd. They're more competitive. The invitationals, obviously, we want to make sure we're doing as much as we can on the grassroots level as well. And to that end, we're introducing Wednesday Game Night coming in September.
Looking forward to it as these players will shuffle up. Get ready for game number 2 here. Again, Bobby Birmingham winning game number 1 over Lauphiette Kincey. Mono white aggro. Birmingham started this tournament 5-0, lost last round. But we haven't seen mono white or white-based aggro decks for some time now. It seems like the cards are there. I'm not sure the power level is the highest, but the cards are there to make a competitive deck.
There are some decks that can't beat Brave the Elements plus a board. Yeah. When those decks are prevalent, white is a fine choice. The Boss Sly is one of those kind of decks. Mono Blue Devotion really struggles against Brave the Element. The card specifically Brave the Elements. And when those decks are a big part of the metagame, I think mono white's a good choice.
Clearly working out here for Birmingham thus far, sitting at 5-1 up a game in what looks to be quite a good matchup. But Kincey will be on the play here. Wouldn't be surprised to see him even it up very quickly. This deck is certainly capable of some quick wins.
So I played mono white aggro for a while.
Yep.
With 21 drops. Yep. I played mono black aggro for a while. I, of course, played mono red aggro for a while.
No.
And I could never get behind the splash damage that white and black take. Because Lifebane Zombie, if you're playing mono red, is nonsense. You actually just win the game if they ever spend 3 mana casting that thing.
Yeah, you laughed that one off.
Against the white weedy deck, it's excellent.
Yes.
And against, with the mono black aggro list, certain decks have Dark Betrayal against you, and there's no real analog that red has to play against. Now, you pick up some advantages in other places with various lists. You know, both white and black are more robust against Palachronos and so forth. So there's trade-offs in either direction, but I couldn't stomach the splash damage that Lifebane Zombie was causing me.
Lifebane Zombies caused a lot of headaches for everybody.
Especially Brian Kibler, who was in the house here for a little while.
Yeah, he was in here sliding some playmats, hanging out with people, probably casting some green spells. But he has been a loud advocate of his hatred of that card, and with any luck, you know, because it's not my favorite design either. It'll be gone in a month or two.
Lifebane's super powerful. I can understand being frustrated by it. It's nowhere near the same type of offense as Thoughtseize. I mean, it's not even close to the same thing.
Few things are.
But if you like the type of decks that Brian likes, Lifebane Zombie is probably worse for you than Thoughtseize.
This is true. This is true. So with any luck, Lifebane Zombie will bite the dust for a little while. We'll see what M15 does bring. Looks like that set's going to be pretty sweet, though.
I'm starting to see the previews a little bit. I'm really invested in M15. I'm invested in every Magic set, but my one Grand Prix this year is core set sealed, so I'm going to be all about it.
Yeah, you get just one, right?
Yeah, I get one.
Where's that at for you?
Sydney, Australia.
Ah, right, okay.
No buys.
I don't think I'm going to have any buys either for the one Grand Prix. If I get to play Grand Prix Worcester at the end of next month. I imagine no buys for me as well. The life of a grinder. Both players going to begin here with some one drops, and here we go into the red zone. This is the kind of fast start that I'm talking about.
Now, Legion Loyalists, you wouldn't think of it being good against, you know, a deck like White Aggro necessarily. More for token matchups, you think about it beating Elspeth and those sort of things. Bobby's deck is almost all one toughness creatures. So Legion Loyalist is a real headache. You saw last game, multiple copies of Brave Elements had to be involved, and Kincey nearly won even still, having to slog through all that.
An attack there for 5 on turn number 2 from Kincey. Moving along very, very quickly here. Birmingham going to play at Plains. You see another one toughness creature, actually 2 of them out here. In Soldier of the Pantheon and Dried Militant, that's what I believe he'll add to the table, and these are all bad blockers.
And if Birmingham's going to try a double block here, Kincey can destroy him with a Shock or a Searing Blood or a Lightning Strike.
Oh, that's a real risk.
Or any Pump Spell.
Yeah. Some powerful cards out there on the table for Birmingham, Soldier of the Pantheon among them, but Legion Loyalist makes blocking look very foolish. And that's going to be an Ash Zealot. Going to trigger there. And everybody's going to come in yet again. So Legion Loyalist, a card that's relatively underplayed, but you can see it is pretty powerful, especially in this deck.
It's got spots, and Tom is definitely maximizing it in a way that some of the lists that I've built have not.
It's time to do a little bit of blocking. Maybe a little double block action. We thought we may see that. And you just have to cross your fingers and hope there's not a Shock or a Rubble Belt Maka here, but what can you do, right? I guess, Shock's actually still pretty good because Judgment Miller can counter it, but then the job still gets done.
Yeah.
So there's your exchange. Dried Militant's going to bite the dust. Well, we saw 2, 4, 5 more points of damage come across, so Birmingham's already down to 10 before he even takes his third turn. But the third turn looks like it may be a good one, as there's a Mutavault into a Banisher Priest to get that Legion Loyalist off the table. And it looks like maybe the mono-white aggro player is beginning to stabilize.
That's step one. Ash Zealot's still annoying, but the hard part's over.
See, Kincey's going to untap the permanents. There's a 4th land. That's the last thing he wants. He wants to stop on 3, and sometimes stop at 2. In comes Ash Zealot. Looks like Birmingham has no blocks, so he's going to go down to 8. Bobby will untap and take a draw here. A couple of lands over there. Actually, just quite a few. I think he's got one more spell, and that's going to be a Judge's Mirror. The last 2 cards simply are lands, but there is a Mutavault among the row.
I think Birmingham's just going to have to commit to a large block next turn on this Ash Zealot. Can't take another hit. Going to 6 against a deck with that many +3/+3 effects is really dangerous.
And now a 5th land there from Kincey. Not an ideal draw. I mean, a great start.
Yeah.
But things, and that's the tough part about this deck, is that if you do start to flood out, it becomes pretty difficult to win.
Not a lot of power in the deck.
Yeah.
And one of the cards that can get him out of this spot is Legion Loyalist, and 2 are already gone.
Looks like we're going to have some attackers here. Azorius Arrestor took down the Ash Zealot, so he doesn't worry about that blocking or attacking on the next turn. So it can start to chip away a little bit. It says, I want to do it with just a couple of 1 toughness creatures. Leave my Banisher Priest back on defense.
And I think that if I'm Kincey here, I'm putting the Denizen in front of the Soldier of the Pantheon. Because he's going to wait 1 more turn.
And Denizen's not going to get much better moving forward.
Yeah, and you have Cacklers in your... If you still have Cacklers in your deck, I think you need to block. Because if you draw a Cackler with the Soldier in play, it's just too bad.
And there is an Eidolon of the Great Revel. A card that is fantastic in this matchup on turn 2. I can imagine it winning Kincey the game if it had showed up on time, but it seems like it might be a little too late now.
Well, with an Assaillant on defense, Birmingham can't really attack. And all of his spells are going to trigger it. And Kincey's ahead in the life race, so I still think it has the potential to do good work in this game.
It's more of an enchantment in this situation. I don't expect to see it attacking or blocking.
Probably not.
Yeah. Looks like our Flyers are going to come into the red zone. 2 copies of Judge's Familiar in the air. Kincey going to go down to 14. And that's just a plains there from Birmingham, passing the turn back. So now we're going to be in the Eidolon squeeze, maybe for both players, as there is a mountain. Kincey going to shuffle those cards back and forth, decide if there's any spell that he'd like to play. Maybe an attacker with Assault, maybe just continue to play defensively, though.
Are there any mortars in Kincey's list?
We take a look at an effect like that. Of course, the spells here, we have 2 Shocks, 2 Lightning Strikes, 4 Titan Strength, 4 Dragon Mantle, 4 copies of Madcap Skills. There are 2 copies of Magma Spray, but there is just a lone missing Mortars in the sideboard.
I mean, we might see the first ever overloaded Mortars out of Boss Sly.
It'll have to be for 8 mana, thanks to those Judge's Familiars.
We're getting close.
But if that's what it takes, hey,
we're getting close.
If that's what it takes to win the game, that's what it takes to win the game. I don't hate it, but it's going to be tough. We'll see if there's going to be any attacks from Kincey, and just reluctantly going to pass the turn back over to Birmingham, who's going to play another Mutavault.
Mutavault's about the best draw that Birmingham has at this point because it's a creature that doesn't trigger the Eidolon.
Many say the best card in Standard. Here's another situation where it looks fantastic.
That's gets my vote still.
Kincey trying to figure out if there's a way for him to do those last 8 points of damage. It's a tough road to get through.
He's got to get a move on here, too, because these chip shots from the Judge's Familiar are getting to the point where he's going to be behind the Eidolon race. Bobby doesn't need to play anything else to win this game. He's got the kill on the board right now. So time is not on Kincey's side.
Yeah, if things keep going the way they're going, we know who the winner's going to be.
Yeah.
It looks like Kincey drew something that matters. It's another Eidolon. So he's going to go down to 10. And this is actually just forcing Birmingham to not cast any more spells. But also, Kincey may not be able to cast any more spells now. So the Eidolon race is getting to be an ugly one, and there's a 3rd copy of Mutavault. In for 2 more, it's a tie game, but it doesn't feel that way. Seems like things are certainly in Birmingham's favor right now.
Well, there is that copy, a Seismic Stomp.
Not the first time we've said that.
It's not lethal right now. And Kincey can't cast a creature and Seismic Stomp at the same turn.
As he will die to those Eidolon triggers.
He would have to play Seismic Stomp and then cast a Maka. That would get it done.
Or just Blood Rush the Maka. Anything will work, but yeah. It all revolves around Seismic Stomp is what you're saying.
That's the starting point. And this assumes that Kincey even boarded it in.
Creatures without flying can't block this turn. The M14 staple. If there's an outside the box way to win a game, Tom Ross will find it with an aggro red deck.
Yeah.
I can promise you that.
I mean, that's cheap even by my standards, you know.
No, you're not above it.
I've gone into the gutter to get some cards before. But
you sure have. I've seen Yamabushi's Flame be cast.
Immolating Soul Eater.
Oh boy, I forgot about that one. The thought process behind that one was good. I don't think it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Did not.
That was your way to beat Spellscud, I think?
No, well, it was good against Spellscud. I was more trying to beat Timely Reinforcements. You cast it on 2, and then 3, you just jam and put yourself lower.
Ah, right. You do yourself infinite.
Yeah. So you're on, you're on, 4 and they're on 5, and then you can probably win the game from there.
Well, I'd hope so. I would hope so.
Didn't end up being very good.
Hey, it's all about having a strategy.
You gotta try. You gotta at least try.
Or play the deck with timely reinforcements in it. That's one way that you could lean. I'm just saying. And mounts in here from Kincey. He's sitting at 6, Birmingham at 8. Gonna go reaching for a spell. Gonna slide things across. You have to imagine this is a creature. It might just be a madcap skill.
Does he have the stomp?
That may get the job done. Yes! It is rather seismic in here. Kincey gonna go down to 2. Judge's Familiars can't counter that. Ground creatures can't block. We're in the red zone here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my goodness. Seismic stop.
My goodness.
Yes. Bobby can't believe it. He doesn't want to pick up his permanents. Yeah, he wins. Lauphiette Kincey's going to tie it up. We're going to go to game 3.
And if that was a card that was on his radar, he could have been attacking a little bit differently there, leaving 1 Judge's Familiar behind, maybe attacking with different stuff.
That stomp was rather seismic.
It was what the doctor ordered. I mean, going to 2 with an Eidolon in play to attack for exact lethal with a bunch of commons that's just the perfect boss Sly win right there.
That's how you draw it up.
That's how you draw it up.
Your opponent can't believe what's happened to them.
They're looking down the life total, looking back at the board, looking down their life total.
That's a dream come true.
Having flashbacks, significant childhood moments, first kiss,
How did this happen?
All the memories are rushing back,
Like, are we seriously shuffling up for a game 3? Oh, yeah. Oh, you better believe we are.
Yeah.
Lauphiette Kincey able to tie things up here with Boss Sly over Bobby Birmingham playing mono white aggro. We'll see if Birmingham wants to change anything. Same here with Kincey. Maybe some few cosmetic changes. Since, being on the play versus the draw is much different for each one of these decks.
For sure. Especially, it's always different for Brave the Elements decks. All you want is to get out in front of the board and then protect your action with Brave or make Kincey's alpha strikes really bad. So being on the play is a huge deal for Birmingham.
Now, of course, we were talking about Boss Sly and the ability to win with Seismic Stomp. We, of course, have to mention the boss himself, Season 2 Invitational Champion.
Yeah, well-deserved.
And for CVM there, well, truthfully, that picture's never going to get old. Him taking a bite out of crime there. Just a ridiculous human.
Yep, beard, a splendid beard, salmon-colored shirt.
The only thing that covers that beard is actually just that plaque.
Yeah, just a iconic shot of 2 of our favorite players in the Open Series.
But again, CVM, one thing that eludes him is one thing that Tom Ross does have, and it is a player token, his likeness on a card, and it's a pretty great one.
Well, CVM's got his, the Star City run, the token.
I suppose that's true.
It's not quite the same thing. There's more prestige in an invitational token. We can't, it is what it is. And what a token this one is.
Tom Ross is your poison counter. 10 of these is what you're looking to give your opponent to win the game. Tom's done that many a time, and we've watched him do so. Worked his way through the Invitational with Blue-Green Infect, has made top 8 with the deck as well. Back-to-back Invitational top 8s. He top 8 the first one in Charlotte, second one in Columbus. I think is a pretty safe bet for the third one as well.
It's crazy how fast Chrissy gets these turned around.
Yeah, I was surprised. I did not expect to announce this weekend, let alone yesterday, where I found out that Tom Stoken was already ready and done and ready to, show off this weekend for the show.
I mean, it's got to be produced in a digital medium. There's no way that it's hand-drawn and turned around that fast. I don't believe it.
Yeah, she's also pretty good.
No, you can be as good as you want. I don't know how you get something like that turned around in a few days.
Yeah, I expected next week in Portland for us to be able to talk about it. But when you can get these is in July at the Baltimore Open, the 19th through the 21st. So that should be fun. I know a lot of players are looking forward to getting these, and I actually want to have my hands on one because, I mean, even though the artwork's cool, it's not the same when you're actually holding one.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. I wouldn't know.
Well, you're never going to have one. That's in the contract.
That's in the contract.
Make sure that you never have a token. Though, let's imagine that you did have one. What would it be?
I don't know. I would have to have it offered to me first to really.
Well, let's imagine that I am offering it to you. What would your token be?
Earlier in the year, I would have definitely taken an Assemble the Legion token.
Yeah, that card stinks. So you have to pick again now.
I'll think about it.
All right. Look, I want Assemble the Legion to be good, but it just lines up so poorly against like everything.
Oh, it has Moment in the Sun. I just mean a Boros Soldier token is what I would be looking to be.
I could see you giving some beatdowns with a shield and a sword. You don't really strike me as a 1-1, though.
No.
You strike me as a 2-1. A little more aggressive.
A little more aggressive.
I think people realize. Plus, you've cast so many 2-1s for 1 in your day.
Yeah, yeah. All sorts of drawbacks. Can't block. Has to attack each turn. If it gets blocked, they get it. If it takes damage, you take that much damage. If it takes damage, you take that much damage part 2.
Let's not forget about Echo.
Yeah,
I imagine
Echo.
you cast the Goblin Patrol at Tiber 20.
Got to pay for it a second time. That was a thing.
Oh, those red 1-drops. They are really something. Sometimes there's ones that are all upside, like Grim Lawmancer, but those are few and far between.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Mod Fanatic, all upside.
Oh, man. Remember that was like the best red 1-drop ever when damage used to stack many moons ago?
Still quite good. Still underrated. People response to the damage on the stack rule changing was way too knee-jerky. They're like, well, no, I can't play with Giant Growth anymore, and I can't play with Mod Fanatics. Well, no, all those effects are still, they're fine.
Yeah.
They're worse, but they're fine.
They're just not completely absurd anymore.
Right.
That's all. Looks like Birmingham's going to take a mulligan. Kincey happy with the starting 7. So the boss slide player at the ready, maybe ready to move on to 6-1.
If you want to go back and look at, people being wrong about new things, go back and read the forums for we've just changed the damage on the stack rules. It does not age well.
No, not something good to look at.
Sometimes you end up on the wrong side of history. That's a thing that can happen to you.
The one that I always look at is Cavern of Souls ruining Magic, which oddly enough, we're still here.
And actually, Magic's, I would argue, been more fun since Cavern of Souls got printed.
I'm inclined to agree.
If only someone could have seen this happening. Whatever.
6 cards coming here for Bobby.
Whatever.
There's a Boros lead among them. The question is how many lands. Looks like there's at least 2, a Plains and a Mutavault. There is your Plains, and that is a Boros Elite. That would be you. That's just a picture of you.
Fire Fist Striker. That's me.
I think if you're more of an elite Boros mage, but you would know better than I.
Oh, you just mean...
That's
okay.
you. That's you in that costume.
I don't know. I think it might actually be a female on the art piece, so that's not specifically me. If you mean name, then yeah, there's an argument.
Yeah, the name. You're
Okay,
the
sure.
Boros Elite.
Sure.
Here's a Rakdos Cackler. Technically, I suppose that cannot be you. You can't be in 2 places at once.
Right.
So.
Paul Rietzl is the Boros Elite. I'm the Boros, whatever.
Ah, okay. I suppose that makes sense.
A sergeant? I don't really know military.
Yeah, I don't know rank.
Well.
I don't know rank. You can just be the battle shaper for when you finally get out of shape.
Oh, okay.
We'll make you a big. You'll have a good ability.
Okay. I'll take it.
And attack here for 4. Birmingham going to go down to, it looks, to 16. Good start here for Kincey.
And you can see, I mentioned this in the sideboarding, why I questioned Gift of Warzova in Bobby's sideboard. He doesn't really have any juicy targets in this matchup. Nearly everything that he puts Gift of Warzova on still dies to shock.
Yeah, it seems kind of appetizing to sideboard that card in this matchup, but I'm with you. It doesn't really seem like it's all that great. You're not going to gain a lot of life, putting an Armadillo Cloak on, locks it on Spider, for example.
I think he would be better served with either Bramaz or Fiendslayer Paladin in this slot.
But here is the gift, and it will go on the Boros lead. Attack here for 2. Birmingham will gain 2, and Kincey will lose 2. So 18 apiece, but I believe that Kincey is the one that's in the lead right now. If he does have a shock, as you mentioned, and there that is, that's a disaster there for Birmingham.
Yeah.
Now here's another copy of Assault, and we're off to the races right now. Birmingham's going to go down to 12.
And this is the tough part about the way that Bobby is sideboarded here. His entire game plan is predicated on really building up a board and either braving to blow up combat or, slowly piece together damage, maybe get gift on something. And in those games, he doesn't really have anything to go to when the board gets like this. He's not really that well equipped to handle 2-power First Strikers. Legion Loyalist has caused him all sorts of problems over this game. And you can see his hand again. It's, he can play Drive Militant and Boros Elite and Mutavaults and all the stuff that's not handling Ash Zealot.
Yeah, Ash Zealot is running rampant on this battlefield right now. And Birmingham may have to consider taking a turn off just to cast the Spear. But that's not a great spot to be in either.
Taking a turn off here to cast Spear is, maybe it's necessary, because then his Mutavaults are 3/3s and then some real blocking can start happening. But I don't think he can afford to take a turn off here, going to 6 on board, and if there's any sort of pump or removal left over in Kincey's hand, probably a lethal attack.
Kincey looks like he's stopped at 3 lands for a change. Was able to win when he drew 7 last game.
3 is still a lot. It's a 17-land deck.
Well, in a perfect world, 3 is all that he'll need to draw. Is now here is Legion Loyalist. You said this card was causing headaches before. Madcap Skills is doing the same too. And we are coming into the red zone with a whole bunch of creatures that all have trample, first strike, and can't be blocked by creature tokens.
And this is a great spot for Kincey to choose to do this because he doesn't have to worry about Brave the Elements right now. There's no white mana up for Birmingham, so.
Yeah, this is a situation, what's the worst that can happen?
Some chump blocks. I mean, Bobby can put Mutavault and Dryad Militant in front of an Ash Zealot and kill one and trade. Other than that, he can't really make any profitable blocks. And even if he makes that block, he's still taking 8 points of damage, falling to 4, and Kincey having an advanced board.
I got a feeling Boss Sly is going to move on to 6-1 here in just a moment. This looks like it may be too difficult for Bobby Birmingham to overcome.
I think this is really an issue of just not having the right sideboard cards for the matchup.
Yep.
I understand, you know, you enchant, make your creature larger, give it lifelink and flying. That seems on the surface it would be very good against Boss Sly. In some spots it will be, but when your deck is all one-toughness creatures and the deck has a bunch of shocks and Searing Bloods against you post-board, it's very unlikely for it to work out for you. And we saw that exactly happen here. Birmingham mulliganing, being committed to put Gift on something and losing the game to Shock. And even if Kincey didn't have Shock, it's not clear how much that Gift would have done. It's only 2 points of damage a turn. Yeah. Kincey would have probably been able to weather that.
Now it's time for some blockers, maybe a little double block action.
Yeah, it has to start here. I mean, this is the only double block that does anything.
Yeah. It's still going to take a lot of damage overall, will Birmingham. Looks like it's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Birmingham's probably going to have to go down to 4.
If Birmingham next turn can find a Banisher Priest and take care of the Legion Loyalist, then, you know, some things start happening. He's still under the gun.
Yeah, things change, though. Things do change. Kincey will have to, of course, organize the blockers here. I think it's probably better to take care of the Mutavault, leave the Dryad Arbor, or Dryad Militant, excuse me, around.
I think that I would actually do it the other way.
Okay.
Because it requires mana for Bobby to turn on the Mutavault, which he doesn't really have access to. And the Dryad Militant is a white creature in play, so it synergizes in the event that Bobby finds a Brave the Elements. So in general, you want to remove their white creatures when you have an opportunity to. Leave them with Mutavaults, where if Brave the Elements gets involved in something, it doesn't help the Mutavault.
Okay. Well, Brave the Elements was the draw. So looks like you may have been correct about that line of play.
The bigger issue is just mana. I mean, Bobby's under the gun here. It's not clear he can afford to leave up a plains to animate a Mutavault to block.
Looks like we're going to see some blocks here. Not sure if there's a block that gets Birmingham out of this. We put Boros Elite and Dryad Militant in front of the Legion Loyalist. There will be 2 trample damage. So that's 2, and the National will be 4. So that looks like that's going to be a problem. So now you have to rearrange a little bit.
I think all of his blocks are dead ends.
I think so, too.
If he double blocks the Legion Loyalist, at minimum he takes 1 if he puts Mutavault and 1 toughness creature in front. So that's 1 point of damage. Boros Elite chumps something, that's 1 point of damage. The uncontested other 2 power creature is 2, that's 4. And since all the creatures have trample, there's probably no way for him to divide his blocks in such a way to stop it.
Yeah. So now here are the blocks. And yeah, I don't think that there's a way for Birmingham to get out of this situation. It's just going to be 4 trample damage always, no matter how he moves around the pieces to the puzzle. And I think it's going to come to that realization in just a moment. Sure, you can change things that way if you want, but it's not going to change anything.
When trample is involved, when trample is given to your team, it's just add up power, subtract toughness, the end.
Yep, that's how much is going to be dealt.
And there's nothing really that Bobby can do here to save this from coming across.
Yeah, there's a Brave the Elements, there's a Titan Strength, so that would get it done anyway, and that's going to do it. Lauphiette Kincey's going to win this match over Bobby Birmingham, 2-1. Boss Sly takes down what looked to be a pretty difficult matchup in mono white aggro, but very impressive fashion in game 2 and game 3. Yeah.